Welcome everybody to Math 126E. We'll explain that E in just a moment. I'm your instructor. My name is Philip Cook. And my pleasure to be your teacher today, or this semester. So today is just going to kind of be an intro day along with just a little bit of material. And then we'll pick it off. But there's a lot to go over in the syllabus, especially since this is a unique course and I've got a lot of interesting rules, at least I think, and stipulations. So we'll get started on that. My office is right over there in the A building right behind us. Well, behind you guys, not in front of me. And in the building A, room 160D. My office hours are going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays right after this class. Sometimes I might be in my office, other times I might need to go somewhere else. So don't expect me to be there. It's best to always check and see if you want to meet me in person. But I will always be available via the Zoom as well. So you don't have to necessarily, like, if you have another place to go and you need to check out, you can always join in via Zoom. So that's the preferred way of doing it. If those times do not work for you, you're always welcome to email me, but ideally email me with several times that work in your schedule. That way we don't have to play email tag where it's like, hey, can you meet me on Wednesday at 1 p.m.? And then I email back, sorry, I can't do 1 p.m. Can you do 2 p.m. on Thursday? You say, I can't do Thursday at 2 p.m. And I just want to do that back and forth. It's a waste of both of our times. If you want to contact me, the best way to do it is either via office hours or with my email address right there. That's Philip with one L, by the way, the correct way to spell Philip. So if you don't get an email back from me, it's possible that you accidentally put two L's. That might be the case. I have to put my office phone number there. It hasn't been working since I started working here over 7 years ago, so I'm just too lazy to fix it. So don't even bother that it's not a useful thing. So I have to keep it on there, but and it's just to satisfy my boss. But otherwise, I'm not going to answer my phone like that. Best way is to do it via email. Um, so there's the stuff that we kind of have to have on our syllabi, just saying what the section number is in case you did not know, and what our course name is in case you did not know. Um, and then, do you need any help? Okay. And then there's this description. It says a rigorous discussion of algebra concepts necessary for calculus is the focal point of this course. Topics include an in-depth investigation of algebra functions, algebraic functions, and their graphs and solutions of systems of equations. If you were to take Math 126, you would see the exact same description. And so that's the thing I want to mention. So we're in Math 126E, not Math 126. What's the difference? Nothing in the grand scheme of things. If you pass Math 126E, that is the same thing as passing Math 126. So if you if you want to take Math 127, getting a C in this course or better will work as a prerequisite. So the only difference between the two courses is that this course has been paired with a Math 26, which you had to sign up for when you got into this class. That thing is just a dummy course. It's not, I've already merged it into our Canvas shell, our main one. You can go.
Yeah.
Say what?
You're the one with the scooter.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, wrong. I got the wrong class over there.
Sure. Well, welcome. So the Math 26 section is really just for the registrar to get everything working together, so that we can get 6 credit hours with you. So it is nothing that you need to worry about. There is a small caveat about it, which we'll talk about when we get to grades in a moment. But suffice it to say, Math 126E is virtually the same as Math 126. The only difference is that we'll be going over some remedial material because this course has no prerequisites. Any questions on that aspect? So once again, if you pass this class, that's the same thing as passing Math 126, meaning that you can go on to Math 127. No worries. The student learning outcomes are the goals of this class are right here. That's really just for assessment purposes. You don't really need to worry about that. You'll see it on the final exam and stuff. And then there is a link to the course schedule on the syllabus, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then we'll move on to required materials. So, couple things. There is the requirement of an ALEKS access code. ALEKS is an online program if you've never seen it before. They have a placement test, which is what we use here at CSN, but they also offer an online homework system, kind of like MyMathLab or Cengage, which used to be called WebAssign, and then or WebWork or things like that, or MyOpenMath. But MyOpenMath is cheaper, but it's not as good. ALEKS is a great system if you've never used it, but it is not the most user-friendly at first. So in my recommendation is to get this set up as soon as possible so you can kind of mess around in the system and get used to it. If we have time tomorrow, on Thursday, we'll kind of dive into it a little bit and get you comfortable with all the things that you need to know about it. Maybe we'll even get to do that today, depending on how fast we get through this stuff. My recommendation would be to purchase the ALEKS access code directly through ALEKS itself, because that's probably the cheapest option. But you can also purchase it from the bookstore. Sometimes there are financial aid decisions, like I know the Veterans Aids, at least 3 years ago. So, I mean, it's ages at this point, but one of my students was on the veterans benefits and they had to purchase it directly through the bookstore. So if that's the case for you, make sure you purchase from the bookstore. They have it at an obscene price, unfortunately. I wish they would, like, I don't know what the markup reasoning is. That's out of my control, unfortunately.
$200.
It's like 170 as of what my students said, and I'm sorry about that. I think it's like a 200, like a 150% markup. It's obscene. But bookstores are always trying to rob people blind. If I could find it for free, I would. But like one of the things I will say about ALEKS has simply the best program on the market for mathematics. And I'll explain why in a little while. That's something you need to have. If you're still waiting for your affairs to get in order, I have provided on the homepage. Let me see if I can go back and it'll put me. No, we're at 3002. Let's see if it'll put me to the homepage. We got our super cool dog with sunglasses as our logo. Is it going to load the homepage? No. If you go to yeah, there we go. There's our Canvas homepage. If you scroll down a little bit, at the very, very bottom here, under the important dates and stuff, you can sign up for ALEKS. I don't know why he's waiting out. But that code right there will get you 2 weeks of temporary access. It's not 2 extra weeks. It just it's just so that you can get your affairs in order and then purchase it when you're ready. Or if you hate my class and think I'm a douche, then that's a good option too. That way you don't have to pay for it yet. So yeah, that's the thing you want to use. So back to the syllabus. Okay, and then there is quote unquote the textbook. It should be an update. It should say second edition of Pre-Calculus by Miller and Gherkin. But basically any pre-calculus textbook will work. They're all basically the same. But I only mention that if you'd like to have a textbook. I really like Miller and Gherkin. I think it's a good pre-calculus textbook. But that's only if you like to have a physical copy or you want something extra to practice with. That being said, you can also find these things online for free. Not that I would ever condone downloading something illegally. That's terrible. That's an awful thing to do, right? So if you can find something for free, don't do that at all. Don't do that at all. See, Chris, I told you I'm totally supporting the bookstore and everything like that. Chris is my boss, so he's not going to watch these recordings, but I don't care, just to be safe. The other thing is that in this course, I'm going to require you to get a scientific calculator, not graphing. Graphing is too powerful for what we need. It's honestly unnecessary. And my goal of this is that if you're planning on taking 127, at least at CSN, I'm pretty sure it's going to be true at UNLV and other places as well. The the decision making on what calculators are allowed is always up in the air. Some teachers allow graphing, some teachers allow no calculator, and it's all grab bag. So I feel like putting in the middle ground with a scientific is a good kind of middle ground. That way, if they have a graphing calculator, you're like, cool, I already know how to use a calculator. I'm pretty good at this. We'll go on from there. And if they don't allow a calculator, then it's not like you had a graphing calculator from the get-go and are now kind of hamstrung. So I would really, 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 really recommend that you use the Casio FX115 ES Plus. Casio, they're like the Ferraris of the scientific calculator world. They are far superior to anything Texas Instrument has ever put out. You can get them for anywhere from about, I think, 12 to 50, 12 to 25 bucks, depending on which model you get. But Casio is really, really good. My fun fact, my wife actually got this one banned at the University of Washington because it was such a good scientific calculator. So that's pretty cool. That's like people started like she was in a bunch of study groups and she was saying you should really get this one. It's really, really good. And if you plan on taking calculus, it's an amazing scientific calculator for that. So I really recommend it. I also just don't like Texas Instruments. They've been charging the same price for their graphing calculators since I was a kid. So yes,
How much does that come to?
the Casios. The FX115 ES Plus is, I believe, the more high tech model. And I last time I checked, it was somewhere about 12 to $17. Like $12 if it was on sale or something. And then the notes, I will be providing us with guided lecture notes that I've made right here. So I need you to have access to a printer, or you can use the printers on campus. They should be kind of connected to your student account. And I believe every semester you get about $10 to $20 of free printing. So you can get the first one started. They should be already up on our Canvas homepage and to print. But if you prefer to take notes on a tablet, that's also fine. I've had plenty of students start doing that. So just some way to keep your notes organized so that you can review them for tests and stuff. Any questions on the required materials? Okay.
How much would the Alex access code cost?
At the bookstore, one of my students said that it cost $170. But I'm pretty sure unless you're using financial aid, buy it from from Alex's website, which is way cheaper. Alex's website's version is far cheaper. So
Even without financial aid, you can get it.
say what?
Even without financial aid, too. For that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's just I think there are certain stipulations for different financial aids that require you to purchase things directly from CSN or something like that. I'm not an expert on financial aid. I got into teaching to be a teacher, not to be a financial aid expert. But I do know that there are certain stipulations for financial aid every once in a while.
And if we were to type in that in Alex, what would it?
So excellent question. So if you look at our Canvas homepage, I mean, this is on my tablet, but if you click on Alex, it will direct you to our Canvas, our Alex course automatically. And then you'll be prompted to enter in an access code. And you'll either use the temporary access code that I showed on the homepage, or you can prompt to purchase one right there. And it'll say like purchase an access code, and you'll choose the 18-week. Good. Next thing is for lectures and attendance. So participation reporting, I'm required by CSN, and it's kind of like a federal thing right now as well, to check for participation during the first week and a half. So I will be taking attendance for this first week because I have to. And for my course, in order to be marked as participating in this course, I need two things to be done. I need you to take the syllabus quiz and get a 100% by Tuesday of next week at 11:59 p.m. at midnight. And I need you to attend at least 2 lectures. So that's what's needed and required. Or if you're unable to attend a lecture, you need to email me letting me know that you weren't able to attend it. You don't need to get into specifics. Just let me know that you were planning to be there, but you couldn't. And then, so on average, like after the first week and a half, then I won't really be taking attendance. It's not required per se, but I will tell you anecdotally that the students who do attend lecture do better. It's just a fact. Like in my 10 years of teaching, the students who don't show up always do worse. There's maybe one or two outliers, but by and large, the ones who do not attend get kept behind in the material, and then they also do worse on the exams and stuff. So I really recommend it. Plus, on occasion, I do mention things that will be on exams during class time. So it's in your best interest to attend class, to be an active participant in the learning process. If you're unable to make it to class, that's understandable. We all have lives outside of mathematics, unfortunately. I know we would all love to just be doing math all the time, right? Yes, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. So if you're unable to attend it, I will be recording all of our lectures. Okay, good. I did remember to record it this time. So you can always watch it after the fact. The only problem being that you won't be able to ask questions, but you can always email me about certain timestamps in the lecture. Let's see here.
Speaking of attendance,
Yes.
did you already take attendance?
I have not taken it yet. I'm going to take it in a little bit. I forgot to do it with my other two classes because this is new and I've never been a big fan of taking attendance. So it's just definitely not my area of expertise. Okay. Email policy. I try to respond within one day, one business day, that is. So if you email me Friday night, I probably won't respond to it until Monday morning or Monday afternoon. And yes, our quizzes and our homeworks are due on Sunday nights. I promise you, it's okay to not get a response from me on Sunday night. Promise it's going to be fine. We're all going to be okay. It's going to be cool. Nothing in this class is that serious. I think you'll start to see, like, as we go through this semester, you'll see that I'm not a very, very serious person. We're all going to die at some point, right? Let's take this with a grain of salt, that this course is just a math course. If you need an extension, just wait for Monday. Like email me Sunday night and I'll get back to you on Monday. It's not the end of the world. The only other thing I want to mention about this one is, so I will try to respond within one business day. If you don't receive one from me within one business day, just send me a polite follow-up saying, yo, Phil, WTF, TTYL, and all that stuff with Gen Z sparkles and all that stuff.
SDTL.
Talk to you later. I'm getting old, apparently. That's millennial talk. Unfortunate. The only thing also I want to mention in this is that I have to respond. I can only respond to your CSN email and Canvas emails because those are quote unquote secure. I can't respond to Gmail. I can't respond to Yahoo because that is not guaranteed to be you. That's not my policy. That's a government policy called FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And if I don't follow it, I can get in trouble. So if you email me from your personal account, I'm just going to say, hey, I can't respond to this with academic sensitive information. Please just email me via Canvas or with your student email address, and then we'll just get through it. And I'll apologize profusely for making you jump through hoops, but it's just what I got to do. Okay. How are we going to be graded in this class is a great question. And I'm glad you asked it. What's your name? Connor. Connor asked a great question about what are we going to be graded on this class. So there is going to be homework due almost every week of this semester, and it will be done through Alex. And the due dates will always be on 11:59 on Sunday nights. And the due dates will be found on the course calendar, which you should print off or make sure you have a quick link to it. And then there will be online quizzes through Alex as well. There's going to be 14 quizzes total in this course, 13 of them in Alex, and the first one is the syllabus quiz, which is on Canvas. There's a link on the homepage, excuse me. The syllabus quiz, you have unlimited attempts at it, so get a free 100% on it, and then that's already bumping up your grade. Awesome. And then the other ones, all 13 of them are timed just to kind of get you a sense of making sure that you work on a time limit, because we are going to have timed exams. But the way I've designed them is that the three lowest quiz scores are dropped, and each quiz you have 3 attempts at it, and it only takes your highest score. So if you get a 9 on the first attempt and you really want to get that 10, but you mess up twice, and get like an 8 and a 7, you still keep the 9 that you got the first time. So it can only help, it doesn't hurt. Then the last thing is that there are 4 non-comprehensive exams during the middle of the semester and a departmental cumulative final. While you only have one attempt at each of the exams during the middle of the semester, I do offer the chance to do a redo for partial credit back, which we'll talk about in a little bit. For the specific dates of the exams, look at the course calendar, it should be there. The one thing that's just so we're clear, it's only the mid-semester exams that do not have a redo aspect. The final exam is departmental and has its own rules and stipulations, so I can't bypass it. Um, it's also time constraints. It would take. I wouldn't be able to put in final grades before it would be due, anyways. But more importantly, it's the fact that the department has their own requirements for it. So, as a small note about ALEKS, though, ALEKS is not a human being. It's a computer program, so it is not perfect, and it is actually very strict, in my opinion, in my experience, especially with pre-calculus. Even adding an x equals when it doesn't want an x equals will mark it wrong sometimes. So sometimes it's good at it, sometimes it's adaptive, but for the most part, I don't trust that. Like every problem that's in there is a little different, and so the program is a little different on each problem. So it could mess up. No, on homeworks, that's not so much of a big deal, but on quizzes, that could mark a whole point off or a whole 2 points off out of 10. And that's a serious markdown. And if you accidentally typo, because like imagine you're working on paper, then looking at your screen, then looking at your keyboard, then looking at your paper, looking back at the screen, there's a lot of chances to make a small error or a slip up. You're looking at it and you accidentally put 13.1 instead of 103.1, and you get a 0 on that problem. If those things happen, look over your quizzes and make sure that you're getting the proper that there aren't any of those mishaps. If you think that anything's being graded unfairly, email me. Just say like, hey, Phil, on quiz 1, I entered this and it marked it wrong. Could you look at it again? And I might give credit back, I might not, but the worst case is I say no. The best case is you get credit back. So I will make sure that quizzes are viewable right after you finish them so you can look at what you got right and what you got wrong. So you can see what the correct answer is versus your answer, so you can see if there's any of these tiny missteps and typos. Okay. Um, because it's happened before. When I teach online, sometimes I have them take the test is taken through the testing center at on ALEKS, and I've seen some students take a test and they go from a 50, and I look over it and they go up to an 80% because ALEKS is just so strict in some cases. So just please be aware of that when you're taking your quizzes. The way the grades will be weighted is that 15% will come from homeworks, 15% will come from quizzes, 50% will come from exams, and then 20% from that final exam. That's my grading scale. Everyone has their own one. It's not exciting except for the spicy C's. I wanted to make sure I was doing the Gen Z stuff, but apparently I've been informed that that's no longer a Gen Z thing. That's 2000 and late, right?
I never heard of that.
I liked the Gen Z sparkles and the spicy. I have to change it. What's the new terminology for it? Either way, the point is, I wanted to be silly. A spicy C is just a C. It's not like I don't believe in C minuses and I don't believe in D minuses because at least at CSN, a C minus is a passing grade, but it is not sufficient to go into the next course. So for whatever reason, that makes me angry. So my way to stick it to the man is make just a C minus into a C for my courses. So if you get a 70%, that's a C in my course, and that's passing. Same thing with D's. D minus is not considered passing for whatever reason, but a D is in certain programs. So I got rid of D minuses. That's my other way to stick it to the man. Any questions on my grading scale? Okay. Extra credit. On occasion, I will offer extra credit, but it's at my discretion and it's only ever offered to the entire class. It needs to be fair to everybody. If you ask for individualized extra credit, my answer will be no. Sorry, but no. It has to be fair to everybody. So, the back to the 126E difference. The only thing that really is different is that Math 126, you've seen it on your class roster on my CSN. It comes up as two different things. There's the actual course that's scheduled to be in this room from 9:30 to 12:50. But then you also have that math 26 and it says TBD, right? It says to be determined where the room is. That is just, once again, it's for the registrar to get you the necessary credit. The only thing that is unique about it is that if you get a D or above, so like more specifically, if you get a D, then you pass the 26. If you get a below a D, then you fail then you do not pass the math 26 portion. The only reason why that's significant is if you do pass the math 26 portion, i.e. you get a D but not a C, you will be able to take regular math 126, the 3-credit version instead of the 6-credit version. So that's the only real interesting aspect about the math 26 portion of the grade. Yes.
It's like a 2-in-1 class.
Basically, yes. It's the 26 is just there so I get 3 extra contact hours to meet with you guys to go over some preliminary information. Okay? Any questions on that? I know it's a little weird at first when you first see it. Okay. So makeups and redos. So for homeworks and quizzes, I understand there's crazy things that happen in our life. Life throws curveballs. Sometimes maybe your younger sibling, their significant other breaks up with them, and you gotta hammer it out with some Love Actually and some Haagen-Dazs waffle cone, right? It's the best flavor of Haagen-Dazs. Try it if you haven't. It's great. But either way, and if you haven't seen Love Actually, it's a great movie. It's wonderful. Except for the Emma Thomas and Alan Rickman timeline. That was terrible. She forgives him. He's a cheating bastard. It's terrible. Anyways, so I understand that life throws curveballs. If you need an extension, please email me. And I'm usually pretty good about it. I'm usually pretty good about offering extensions because as long as you're doing the homework, I don't really care. I want you to do it because that's more practice. But what I would like, I have a bunch of classes. If you email me through Canvas, it does tell me which section you're in. But if you use your student email, it won't tell me. So ideally, please tell me what class you're in, what homework assignments you need extensions for, and what quiz. And ideally what you plan on doing to make sure you get that thing done. That's how the real world works, right? If you're late on something at a project at work, they're not going to just say like they're not just going to read your mind and assume that you need more time. You need to tell them this is what I need to do. This is how I'm going to get it done, and blah 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 blah. So please just be a little bit detailed in it, so that it makes it easier for me to find where you are in my classes and go from there. I'm a fairly reasonable person, at least I like to think so. So worst case scenario is I say no, but I usually say yes when it comes to homework and quizzes. For exams, it's a little different because those things are taken in person. I don't usually extend the deadlines, but if there are extenuating circumstances, you may be allowed to take a makeup. The only thing that I require, please, please, please email me as soon as possible. Don't email me as you're bleeding out in a hospital, like in an ambulance. But as soon as you have a chance to, please email me, because if I hand back the exams, the graded exams, I can no longer provide a makeup because the test is now compromised and I have to stay legit, if you will. So I can't provide a makeup if the tests are already handed back. So it's best to contact me as soon as you can so I can give you an extension. I can delay handing it back. If you aren't able to attend it and you don't let me know and I've already handed it back, then the exam score will be a 0. But we're going to talk about the redo policy now and how that will work. So for these 4, it's supposed to say 4, not 3. I'll change that later in post. For the 4 exams during the semester, when you take you'll get your first initial attempt, and then once I grade it, you'll get it back. And you'll see that there are very few markings. There might be a check mark if you got it right, and there might be an X where you went wrong, or a circle where something's not making sense. But there won't be like any comments. I won't be saying like, hey, you need to do this, or this is very close, blah, 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 blah. That's not how it's going to work. Because I need you to look back over your work and figure out where you went wrong. In my experience in mathematics, making mistakes is one of the biggest factors that attributes to your understanding of the material. Learning from your mistakes is paramount to your success in mathematics. And I really don't like our Prussian system that we have here in the US. I have to do it. But so the Prussian system is this A, B, C, D, E, like these A, B, C, D, F scale. I don't agree with it, but I have to do it because that's what CSN requires. I think it's really bogus because it doesn't make sense from a learning standpoint. Like you start off with a perfect ship, 100%, and then you basically have to keep it afloat until the end of the semester, which is not how learning should be. Learning should be building up your ship so you can go out into the sea, into the next course. So I don't like the fact that exams are so high stakes. I don't agree with it. So that's why I have this redo policy so that you can learn from your mistakes and you can get up to 50% of the points that you got wrong back. So let's say you get an 80% on the exam. You missed out on 20%. You get your exam, you do the redo, you can get up to a 90. So you can go from a B minus to an A minus. If you get a 50% on that exam, you're missing 50 points, half of that is 25. You can go from a failing grade to a solid C in this course. So my goal with teaching is to show you, as long as you put in the work, you should be able to pass. You might not get the A, but let me tell you, just as like from my own experience, nobody cares what grade you get. Nobody cares which grade you get in Math 126. Nobody really honestly cares about your GPA. If it's anywhere it really doesn't matter that much. They have us believing that like you have to get all the A's, you have to be perfect everywhere. But there is a lot of truth to the adage, C's get degrees, right? Nobody cares. Unless you are one second, unless you are trying to get into a math graduate program, which why would you do that? That's a terrible idea. Don't be a math major. It's a bad idea. Unless you're trying to do that, it doesn't really matter what grade you get in Math 126 or Math 181. They'll just see that you passed it, and that's enough. So yes.
Well, let's say some people with certain grades, some scholarships and grants got to maintain some.
That's true. That is fair.
For those people.
That is fair. That like there are grants. I disagree with it. I wish we were on a pass-fail system for all courses. I think that would be a way better system. A mastery-based system is a far more conducive to a learning environment instead of making us pit against each other to try and get the best grade possible. It's a bad idea. But either way, so that is my redo policy. When you receive your exam, they won't have any very, very few comments on it. And then what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to write the corrections on the back of each page, on the back of the previous page. We'll talk about it more in detail when we get there. And you can get up to 50% of the points back. It needs to be turned in 1 week from when you get it. So if I give it back to you on Wednesday, next Wednesday is when it's due. But there are some stipulations here. First one is that you were expected and required, honestly, to work on these redos without any solving components, whether they be human or non-human. So that means no photo math, no Mathway, no ChatGPT. Honestly, don't use ChatGPT for math right now. It's terrible at it. And then also no little brothers who are savants that are really, really good at who are already taking calculus or in grad school, or no, not your parents, not tutors, anything like that. You can use tutors on homework. You can use tutors to like help you study. But when it comes to the redos, I want it to be just you and your brain. I want you to be an active participant in this process. That's why I give you the redo, so that you can learn from your mistakes. You can't learn from your mistakes if you let something else do the work for you. If I catch you using it for one reason or another, I will have to, that is considered cheating in this course, and I will have to pursue an academic misconduct case. The only exception to that rule is you can always talk to me about the redo. You can email me questions about it. You can come to my office hours. You can talk to me before or after class. That is fine. And if there's other students there while you're talking to me, that is okay. That is an agreed upon exception. But otherwise, you can use any resource you want online that doesn't solve it for you. You can look at YouTube videos. You can look at other people's notes. There's another teacher here, Eric Hutchinson, if you've ever heard of him. He's a great teacher. He's got YouTube videos for every section of Math 126. I do too, but so you can use any resource that doesn't have a solving component. because I want you to be doing the active learning. You cannot learn unless you're an active participant, especially in mathematics. So that's the first thing, is it is expected and required that you only use your brain and anything that you are researching to figure out the redo, okay? The other thing that this is a new policy since last semester because I wanted to make it so that if you do miss a quiz or miss an exam, that's really, really cruddy. You get a 0 on it, that's terrible. So I will allow students to do a redo of an exam for up to 50% of the points. So if you if you redo the exam and you get it perfectly, that's a 100%, that'd be 100%, but you only get 50% of the points, you get a 50. Now I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot better than a 0. However, if you do an honest attempt at the redo, I will look at your performance on that material on the final exam, and it may replace that 50%. So I've got an example here. Let's say you miss exam 2 for whatever reason, and you do the redo. Maybe you get a 40, maybe you get a 50, maybe you get a 20. Who cares? If on the exam, on the final exam, let's say that, because the final exam is cumulative. So let's say that 30 points of the exam come from exam 2 material, and you get 27 out of those 30 points. That's a 90% on the exam 2 material of the final exam. I will replace that 50 with a 90%. Does that make sense? Because I want the final exam to be an accurate representation. If you perform better, then that should be reflected in your grade. So, and it will only help, it can never hurt. So like if you unfortunately get like a 10 out of 30 on the exam 2 material, and that gives you a 33% repeating, of course, then it'll stay that 50. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? I'm not an English major, so maybe my language isn't perfect there. So if it doesn't make sense, feel free to ask me. But I want you to have the best chance of success in this course. Okay? Don't bank on that, right? Because it could be, since this is a departmental final, they could just, for whatever reason, the department could make the exam really, really hard in exam 2 material. And then that would be like, so don't just bank on saying, I won't take exam 2. I didn't like it anyways. I'll just prepare for it for the final. That's a bold, bold thing to do. So any questions on the redo policy? Yes. Okay. So I normally don't take attendance, but let me just actually go ahead and just start passing out a sign-in sheet just so that I can get this all taken care of. So if you could please just write your name on it, so I get the attendance on it. But if you do need to leave for whatever reason, that you do not need to let me know. If you need to go to the bathroom, that's totally fine. Just politely leave yourself and you're all good to go. Okay, great question. So yeah, totally fine if you need to leave early. Then we've got like the rest of this, a lot of this is just kind of stuff that all syllabi have to have. Here are the important dates for the semester. So we actually don't have, we get Veterans Day off. Veterans Day off, and then we get Thanksgiving break off. Oh, goody. We get Thursday, we get Thanksgiving and Friday off. I think Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, if not my favorite. I think it's a damn travesty that we don't make the whole day, a whole week off. And sadly, because of that fact, I do have to schedule one. Like we'll look at the course schedule in a second. I just love cooking. So, and I like my dad was always did Thanksgiving, and I kind of picked that up from him. So, it's my favorite holiday. I love like cooking a turkey is always fun and a nightmare to do. So, these other dates right here, these are important in case you need to drop for whatever reason. This is not just for my class, this is for any class. The last day to get a 100% refund if you are just like, nah, screw Phil, he's a jerk. That would be this Friday, I think. That's 31st, I think, is this Friday. No, Sunday, that's right. And then you have W's or withdrawals and audits. If you don't know what a withdrawal is, it just means that you are withdrawing from the class. You get dropped from the class. It shows up as a W on your transcript. You don't get a grade in this course. It doesn't affect your GPA for whatever reason. It just shows up as a W. It doesn't explain why you withdrew for any reason. I have W's on my transcript. Nobody cares. The only way it would start to raise red flags is if there was like a million semesters where you have a W every single time. That might raise alarms, but honestly, if not, people aren't usually looking that detailed into your transcripts. So it's okay to get a W if you can't move on for whatever reason. It's understandable. I want everyone to get in here. I want everyone to pass. But if you have to withdraw, that's a fine option. The other option to do instead of withdrawing is to audit the course. If you audit the course, you are still enrolled. You can still do all the homework assignments. You can still take all the exams, and I will still grade them. But you won't get a course grade. So it's a really good option if you don't pass, like if you know you're not going to pass, but you're still going to keep trying it next semester. That way you kind of have an advantage following that semester in that following semester. Okay. Any questions?
What about for appeals?
For appeals, that is, I don't remember the exact dates for that one. Something like that. But that can be found on like the policies page of CSN if that happens. I'm usually pretty chill about it, so I hope that nobody has to do an appeal. I'm usually pretty cool about that. So I don't want to deal with the paperwork either. So I'll try to make sure we don't have to deal with that. Couple things. AI is driving everyone crazy right now, especially in the academic world because it's driving us crazy. Especially your English teachers are losing their minds over it because it's rampant and we don't know what to do. AI is a great tool. Right now, it's kind of eating itself and it's becoming less and less accurate. Mathematics behind it is fascinating, but so right now we're in this really, really gray area where we don't know what is considered cheating. And so it's very, very confusing for you guys. Case in point, is spell check cheating? Do you guys think spell check is cheating? When I was taking the GRE, which is like the big boy SAT for grad school, there was no spell check. It was not allowed. That was cheating. So things have changed since then. I believe now spell check is allowable on the GRE, but it wasn't for a while. So we're now introducing this new software that people can use. So it's very, very confusing what is cheating, and each person's class will be different. In my class, cheating will be considered if you are making AI, whether it be Photomath or ChatGPT or whatever, do the work for you, because then you're not learning. And my goal in this class, what I want you to do is I want you at least tolerate mathematics. I want you to learn it, and you cannot learn it if you're letting something else do it for you. If you're doing nothing, you're not learning. So if you use it during a quiz or during your homeworks or during an exam, that is considered cheating. If you're using it to enrich your learning, like you show it your exam and say, hey, can you help me to develop a study guide for how to prepare better for the next exam? That's a good use of AI. That is you using AI to become a better student. That is acceptable for me. Or having it review your homework and say, like, what can I do better? How can I do this more efficiently? And it gives you ideas. That's a good use of AI. That's my version of AI. I do think we should all get practice with it and get used to it because it's not going to go away. Maybe it'll implode on itself and it'll get restarted, hopefully, because right now it's pretty inaccurate. In case you're using it, please make sure you always fact check it because it's not perfect right now. Any questions? This is a new one for me. I do not allow smartphones inside our classroom at all, except for academic and emergency purposes. So if you need to respond to a phone call that comes in about like your child getting injured at school, or your work needs you in earlier, whatever it may be, that is an acceptable use. If you come in late and I'm about to move pages and you just want to take a picture of it, that's an acceptable use of your smartphone. Otherwise, I want it out of sight. And more specifically, I want it out of your mind. I want it to not be distracting you. It is a great tool, but they're actively actually being very harmful to our brains. If you haven't read, there's a book called The Anxious Generation. It's a very, very enlightening book, and it's showing how smartphones and especially social media is destroying your guys' mental health. So I would encourage you honestly to delete all of your social media. It's not good for you. It's very, very unhealthy. But I can't do that. I can't require you to delete your social media accounts. But what I can do is make sure that you do not get on it in this classroom. Because if you get on it, then other people are going to get distracted. Fun fact, there's actually a study showing that if your phone is on you or on the desk, versus if it was somewhere else, you perform worse on cognitive tasks. They actually have concrete studies about this. If your phone is right next to you, even if you don't get any notifications from it, even if it's turned off, you do worse on cognitive tasks. So I would like us to have all of our backpacks during the exams up here, and you can pick it up at the end. I want your phones in there so it's out of sight, out of mind. I would recommend that you put your phone on silent in the deepest recesses of your bags because you don't need to be constantly bombarded. There was a time back in the day where like in order to get in contact with someone, you had to write a letter. And I don't think we need to be connected to the world that much. It's instead be connected to the people around you. Okay. So if you are on your smartphone in class for whatever reason, I'm going to ask you to leave. Uh, we're going to have some breaks in this class. And if you want to be on your phone during the break, that's fine, but not in my classroom. I do not want it in the classroom. If you really need to go check your Instagram and your Facebook or whatever, do it outside. I'd rather us get to know each other. We're going to have two breaks in this class, two 10 to 15-minute breaks. That means that every week we're going to have anywhere from about 40 minutes to 40 minutes to 60 minutes together. That's about how much time I spend with my brother. So you guys are going to get more attention than my brother usually does. So you guys are like my brothers and sisters now. Okay. We're all brothers and sisters. We are a family, a school family. That's what my son's school does every morning. They do a song. We are a family, a school family. You make me happy when you are here. I had to learn it. But anyways, I would rather you get to know the people in this room because you're going to be in this room with us for 16 weeks. We're all going to be hanging out for 16 weeks, learning math, making jokes, having a good time. So I want you to focus on human connection instead of virtual connection. All right. Um, oh, that got implemented. Uh, Awkward. That was a typo. The appropriate use of AI right there should be actually up there. Awkward. Recording, since I'm recording all of our lectures, you don't really need to, but if you do want to record the lecture for whatever reason, or like just let me know so I don't bash my boss or the president or anything like that. Uh, Say like Dr. Klippenstein's a jerk. You're fine, Dr. Stacy. Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's new to the college, but I'm just kidding. He's not going to read. He's not going to watch this. But either way, just let me know so I don't make a fool of myself. Uh, I'd rather that be on my own choice. Okay, we're nearly done with it, and then we'll take our first break. ADA statement: if you have a disability, you need accommodations. They are the people you need to contact: the CSN Disability Resource Center or the DRC. I cannot provide accommodations without a written confirmation from them. So if you do require those things, get in contact with them and get it set up. If you don't know how to get those, like if you don't know how to work with them, let me know and I'm happy to get you in contact with them. I've worked with them plenty in the past, so it's not too terrible of a thing. They're actually right across the hallway from us right now in this course on this campus, but there's one on every campus. Then let's see here. Academic integrity. In short, just don't cheat, please. It's beneath you. You don't need to be a cheater McCheaterson. I gave you the exam redos for a reason. Furthermore, it's a whole ordeal because when I have to report cheating, then we have to go to the jousting fields on the North Las Vegas campus. If you've been to North Las Vegas campus, there's a few jousting fields right next to the baseball fields. And unfortunately, they don't have a storage place for all the armor, the jousting armor. That's on the Henderson campus. So if we really want to do an academic misconduct case, we have to go to Henderson, pick up the armor and the lances, and then we have to get we have to get onto the jousting field on North Las Vegas. And I've never lost a joust before. I'm very, very good on the jousting field. So I don't recommend it. You're gonna get hurt if like one to the face, I don't miss. In all honesty, though, it's a huge mess. It's a bunch of bureaucracy, and I really don't want to deal with it. Um, as I said before, cheating in my class is using resources, whether human or non-human, to do the work for you. That is not you learning. Students' rights and responsibilities is basically just be nice, be respectful, be nice to your fellow classmates, be nice to your teachers, don't graffiti, don't litter. And on that subject, when it comes to food and drink, we're going to be in this classroom for 3 hours. So I'm not going to tell anybody if you don't. Just my only request is that you be respectful. Like, don't bring in a head of cabbage. Just be chomping on that during class. Don't bring a cutting board and an apple and just be chopping that up. Just make sure, or bring in one of those sunship bags that sound like a jet airplane. Just don't do that, and we're all good. And then clean up after yourself, and we're all good. I'm thinking about making sure I buy some Costco sized bags of uh, granola bars and stuff for us so that we can have something to eat during this 3 hour chunk. So I'll be bringing that next week. I need to take a trip to Costco. Okay. We have oh yes, go ahead. Yes, absolutely. On your quizzes on Alex, you can use a graphing calculator, but I'd rather you use a scientific because I want you to be prepared for the exams, which are allowed to have a scientific, but no graphing. So that's totally fine to use during your homeworks, during your quizzes, during the exams. It's totally fine to use a scientific. And if you don't want to purchase one, I believe you can rent one from the libraries for like a day or for a couple hours. So that's always an option if you don't want to purchase one. Um, Pregnant students, if you are pregnant or plan on getting pregnant, Title IX is here to protect you. I will always work with you, like on those situations. It's hard enough being pregnant, let alone being a student and pregnant. So if that happens, just be in contact with me and we can get it all squared away and make sure that you are being taken care of adequately. I hate that I even have to have this on my syllabus, but this is just to let you know that we are a sexual harassment free campus. So none of that. Let's make sure that we're all chill and respectful of each other. The only thing that I will have to mention about that is that I am what they call a mandatory reporter. So if you do bring any sexual harassment to my attention, I do have to report it. But that is the only thing that I really want to discuss there. I hate that I have to even have this on there. But here we are. Counseling services, those are free things. If you need psychiatric help, feel free to contact them. It's free for CSN students. Things are crazy as it is, and being a student is also difficult. So feel free to use it if you want, if you need. We already talked about withdrawing. We also have advising and coaching services. Dates of last attendance or DOLA is something just to let you know. Sorry for spraying up that. That was my accident. If you don't take the final exam, I have to record your last date of attendance. So, and that can affect financial aid. So be aware of that if you are on financial aid, that you do need to finish the course. And then the last thing, until we get to the disclaimers and advice, is that there are tutoring centers on all 3 of our CSN campuses, not on our satellites, not on the Palo Verde one and stuff like that, but all 3 of our campuses have free tutoring for all CSN students as long as you're taking like 2 credits or more, which is we're already there. We got 6 credits. So you can drop in whenever you want during those hours, and they should be able to help you. But you can also attend my office hours. Cool. Any questions so far? I know I look really, really intimidating up here with this badass soul patch, right? I'm looking super cool. But I promise you, I'm just a house cat. I'm very, very nice. So please ask questions if you have them. So some disclaimers and advice. Disclaimer is that I reserve the right to change the syllabus in any way, shape, or form as necessary, but I will give you adequate notification of these changes. And this is not so that I can play God. This is mainly so that I can make adjustments based on the needs of the course. If the power goes out for a week and we can't use the projector, we can't come to class or whatever, then I'll have to adjust the due dates of things. And that's what this is for those types of things. Then on to advice about mathematics. If you don't think you're very good at math, there's a famous book that says you're not. It's not that you're bad at math, you're just lazy, which is hurtful in some ways, but it's also truthful. Mathematics is not something that you can just look at and get. Uh, you will be in a world of hurt if you think that's the way math works. Mathematics is more like a sport or like weightlifting, right? I can show you the. Oh, you have a question? Oh, perfect. You you can totally do that. Don't worry, you don't need to let me know in the future. It's totally chill. I can show you the perfect way to do a deadlift without destroying your back. But unless you're actually doing that, you're never going to get jacked. You're never going to get swole, as the kids say, right? Is swole the words now? Or is it still yoked? Is it yoked?
It's been like that for 20 years.
Oh, well, I like swole. I think it's fun to say. So you're never going to get your math brain swole unless you're doing practice. So practice early, practice often. My biggest recommendation, if I can teach you a little bit of psychology about studying, is if you practice tonight, like the night of a lecture, you do a little bit of practice, maybe 5 problems. It will help it go from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. So if you can, practice a little bit each lecture night, and that will help immensely. The other thing that will really help you in mathematics is to avoid parroting or monkey see, monkey do behaviors. So what I mean by that is looking at your notes, then trying and having your notes open while you're doing a problem, and then just going, okay, he did this step, then so I do this step. Then he did this step, so I do this step. That is not training your brain to make the necessary connections. That is just regurgitation, and that's not what math is. Math is never like, I don't know who told us that the answer is the most important part of mathematics. That's not true. The work is the most important part. Mathematics is about constructing arguments. It's about deductive reasoning. And if you are just parroting what I have done, that is not something that can help you learn the math. You will be in a world of hurt when it comes to exam time. So what's better is if you are stumped when you're doing a problem, to look back over your notes, try and figure out what I did, and then try it again fresh. But don't have your notes open. And then if it still gets stumped, look back at it again and try it again from scratch. And then keep doing that until you get it right. That will make you a far better mathematician. I guarantee it. There's an age-old adage in neuropsychology that says the neurons that fire together wire together. So you want to train your brain to make the necessary connections. If you don't, it won't make those connections itself. And the last one is do not procrastinate. Especially during this first segment, everything we learn in this first unit of material is going to be used frequently throughout the course. So if you get behind and you procrastinate, it's gonna come back to bite you in the butt. Okay? Last things, and then we'll take our break. I promise. It's a lot of time sitting on our butts. Questions. These are my unwritten rules and recommendations. Questions, questions, questions. I love answering questions. This is my favorite thing about being a teacher, especially the questions like, why is this useful? Why is this necessary? Or why does this work is my favorite one, because I love the fact that mathematics always has a reason why it works. You should always be questioning what you're learning in classes. Say, why is that true? What's your reasoning? What's your justification? Because you don't know, I could just be some random dude. I could have kidnapped Professor Cook, and he's in my car right now, and burning alive in the heat. That could be the case. I could just be some random dude, and I could be telling you random stuff. You should always be questioning what you learn. And I guarantee you, if you have a question, at least 5 other people in this class have the same question. So please be that brave soul to ask that and enrich all of our lives. Questions make mathematics really, really helpful. The obvious clause. No one in my classroom is allowed to use obvious or easy or simple in a mathematical context. Mathematics has never been easy. It's never been obvious since its inception. It's the most important subject in all of human history. We literally invented writing because we needed to do math. But it's never been easy. It's never been clear. It's a very, very humbling subject. There's always going to be times where you see something right away and it seems completely obvious to you, but the person right next to you is completely lost, and vice versa. So, if I ever use that in a mathematical context, you have my permission to throw things at me. I'm pretty good at dodgeball, but I mean, if you throw some pretty heavy things, a laptop would be like, I mean, you got it pretty far away, but I might be able to dodge that laptop. But that is acceptable if you're okay getting rid of it. Anyways, I've had this policy since I started teaching, and I've never said obvious in a mathematical context. I say in a mathematical context because if it's outside of mathematics, then I'm okay to use obvious. So if you're asking me, I mean, I don't know why you would ask this because we're all on the same page. If you ask me who's the best team in the NFL, I'm going to say obviously it's the Seahawks because we're all Seahawks fans here. Good, great. We're all Seahawks fans. Go Hawks. Best team in the league. So that is okay for me to use obvious. Color coding your notes. I love color in mathematics. Color makes your notes come to life, and it makes it far easier to look back over your notes to study. Um, and you don't even need a bunch of colors. You don't need to have like that big pencil that has like 80 million different choices. This one is sufficient. This one has a pencil, a black pen, a blue pen, and a red pen. That's usually enough. If you want to go crazy, you want to add a little bit of spice, a little paprika, a little bit of cayenne pepper, get a green pen as well. Maybe your favorite color, maybe it's purple, maybe it's teal. Add that one in. The more color you have, the better it makes your notes because instead of it all being in gray pencil or black pen or whatever, when you're looking back over, you're like, wait, why did that happen? Instead, if you've got color, it's like, oh, that's what we did. We did that step, and then we did this, and that'll make it way better when you're reviewing your notes. The students who have adopted that policy in my class have said that it has been revolutionary to their note taking, not just in mathematics, but in all of their other classes, especially STEM ones. Um, then handwriting, I do not have the best handwriting. I'd like to think it's better than most mathematicians, but it's still not perfect. So if you can't read what I've written, please just ask. I have no shame when it comes to that. Sometimes I write things and they don't make any, like they don't look right. So just let me know and I'm happy to change it. Talking speed, I love math and I love talking about it. And I'm sure you've noticed that if you're excited about something, you start talking faster. So I sometimes get way too jazzed about whatever we're talking, especially if it's logarithms. That's one of my favorite sections of the Math 126. And sometimes I don't realize that I'm talking too fast. So if that's ever the case, just say, Phil, can you slow down a little bit? You're going a mile a minute.
You keep you on track.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Please let me know. One of my first semesters teaching, I was nervous as well because I had never taught before. And I was doing notebook checks because that was required for the course. And there was this these two girls, and I checked the one, and there was missing notes. She was missing like several pages of notes, and I was like, "Am I talking too fast?" And she was so sweet. She's like, "Oh no, you're doing great." And the girl next to her just went, "Yes." So she got an F, of course. I made sure she got an F. I'm kidding, but it was a good eye opener for me that I do talk too fast sometimes. And the last thing is, if you already have study habits, awesome. Please keep them up. If you don't have great study habits with mathematics, take it from a person who has learned a lot. New habits start small. Don't go into this week saying, you know what, I'm going to study for 4 hours every lecture day, and then I'm going to study for 10 hours on the weekend, and it's going to be awesome. You might get 1 week through it, and then you're going to burn out. New habits, they start small. Start by saying, I'm going to study 10 minutes each day. And then you'll notice that you'll start to be you'll be more prepared for class, and then you'll be like, maybe I should up it to 20. And then maybe I can up it to 30. And you'll start to scaffold it, and it will make it a lot easier. So if you don't have any study habits, start small right now, and you'll thank yourself in the future. Okay? Any questions? Yes. Excellent question. Dude, I'm kidding. Professor Cook, Mr. Cook, Phil, not well, Hefe. Like I like to. Oh, chef. Oh, yes. I even I thought you said Hefe. I'm sure I'm cool with it. If it's a nickname we come up together, that's chill. My brother calls me Feep. So that's a little weird one, but he's always called me that. So That's his name though, so don't call me Feet. But other than that, I'm cool with anything. I'm pretty chill with anything. All right. So it has been over an hour. So let's take a little bit of a break. Let's come back in 10 minutes. Let's come back at 10:45. If you want to be on your phones, that is your choice, but do it outside. Otherwise, I will have a crossword up here. People watching the recording, go do some guided meditation. Come back in 10 minutes. All right. Back. Um, so, this is our homepage. This is the tablet version. I've never been a fan of Canvas's app, but either way, I just want to go through and kind of mention things. This is what you'll see every week. When you log on to Canvas, this is the homepage that you will see if it loads. Um, so usually I'll have the week agenda, kind of things that we need to know, and then along with what we're going to be going over each week. So for us today, we're going to be going over the introduction and then trying to finish off unit 0.1. And then on Wednesday, we'll take care of unit 0.2 and 0.3. And then there's the important dates at the very bottom. So once again, sign up for Alex, take care of the syllabus quiz. And you do have homework this week on unit 0.1 and 0.2. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that next week on Monday is Labor Day, so you do not have CSN classes that day. So that doesn't affect us. We're Tuesday, Thursday, but for any of your Monday, Wednesday classes, you don't have class that day. So this is what you'll want to do. Up here, all those little widgets, you can click on any of them and they will take you things. So if you want to print off the guided lecture notes or download them onto your tablet, just click on that and boom, it'll take you to the modules section. In particular, it'll take you to the notes. I've already got them all uploaded here, unit 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 0. And then going back for a second, we need to look at the course schedule. I wanted to just mention that. So this is a tentative schedule. This is like as long as everything goes according to plan and as long as I don't get too sidetracked, which I am very, very prone to doing, this is what we should be going over each day. The homework could be changed based on the needs. If we don't go over if we don't finish 0.2 on Thursday, I'll move the due date over and I'll extend the due dates of other things as well. Our exams are always on Tuesdays. And I wanted to go back to that page. Course schedule. I really am sorry about this. I have one of the exams on Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. It was the only day that could work, and I don't like that, and I'm very sorry. I wish we had that entire week off. I had no control over this when I was trying to figure out where to put it because I needed to make sure that you guys could take care of the exam redo. But I couldn't put it in the last week because then you wouldn't be able to turn in a redo, and I wouldn't be able to finish the material before then. So I'm very sorry about that. I don't want to do that, but I had to. It hurts my soul truly to make it do that day. I wish you guys could be home on that day. But just take it and then get out of here and go spend time with family and friends. Okay. But that is our schedule. So please print it out or just kind of know where it is and keep it in mind. What else? This is where you can access the office hours. There's an office hours link. Just click on that. And as long as you have Zoom downloaded on your device, you can use your computer, you can use your phone, you can use a tablet, as long as you have Zoom installed. And otherwise, it will prompt you to install it and it'll be all fine. You don't need to have a paid account. I already have one, so I can make the meetings go as long as possible. So you don't need to worry about that. Just get a free account and you're all good. And then last thing from the homepage, if you miss a lecture for whatever reason, just go to where is it? It's just not loading. The lecture archive down in the bottom right. This one right next to the guided lecture notes, the one that has the cool little computer with a top hat on it or a graduation top hat. And you can click there. Right now, it's completely empty because we haven't had any classes. It's the first one, but it will get updated usually about 24 hours after class. And if it's not there, just let me know. It might be that I kind of forgot, right? And then we are going to be going over algebra, but if you ever need a refresher on any of the algebra that we have, you can always click on this little tab and you'll be directed to a bunch of videos that myself and my colleagues have created. The 95 material, that's early algebra. We're going to be going over that this week and next week. So those ones were made by my wife and a couple of my colleagues, Chris King and Jen Gorman, who's no longer here. But then this stuff right here, the Math 96, those are all videos that I've created for that material. So
He's no longer here.
she moved to a different state. So yeah, she didn't die. She is no longer at CSN is probably what I should say. She was great. She's a very, very great teacher, but she is no longer with us here at CSN. Anything else? And that front page, homepage. Just last minute thing. You can either go to Alex with this little widget in the bottom right once it loads, and that will direct you to Alex to sign up for an account and start working through your homeworks. Or on the side, there's a little tab menu item that says Alex. Either one of those will get to it. Don't go to Alex's website because that'll ask you for a course code, and mine has already been paired with our Canvas course, so it automatically gets it in there. I don't have an actual course code, so trying to sign up on Alex's website won't work. Okay? Any questions on that? Yes.
If you're one to
Yes.
do we try to use it for like credit?
The homework is done on Alex, and so you don't need to turn it in. It automatically turns it in. Maybe we'll get a little bit of chance to do it today or on Thursday, just to kind of give you a taste of what Alex is like. It's a little bit unuser friendly at first, but I promise you it's a really good program. But that reminds me, thank you. So when you first sign up for Alex, it will do a thing that they call an initial knowledge check. Basically, it's Alex is trying to gauge what you know and what you don't know. So it's not for a grade, it's not for anything. It's just trying to figure out how to best cater the learning towards you. It doesn't want you to learn topics that you already know, and it doesn't want to, and it wants to find the best path for you. If you already know how to factor quadratics, it's going to probably try and push you to do trinomial or quadnomials next because you already know how to factor it. So it's going to kind of cater the learning towards you. So it's okay to not know something. There's going to be plenty of things in this course that you don't know. It's going to test you on the whole course. And you're taking this course. You're not expected to know everything of it. So if you don't know, just click I don't know. It's not a big deal. Don't use any outside help because then it won't cater it to your specific needs. Okay? You can use a calculator, but don't try and use Mathway to solve things. That'll just cause it to be more of a problem than it's worth. It'll cause problems down the line, and you will actually end up hamstringing yourself. Okay? Or wing clipping yourself if there are any hunters from WoW out there. Not that I've ever played that game before. I've never played any games before. So, anywho, where are we?
First thing I thought when you said hamster.
Yes, exactly. Not that I would know what a hamster, that's an ability of a warrior. That's ridiculous. Anyways, I don't play it anymore. Can't with a kid. It's a little too hard. But anyways, where are we? We're ready to actually start taking the notes. Actually, just in case you want to know, I am a person. I'm not actually just here and then I disappear. I know some people think that about teachers, but I actually do have a life. Crazy, I know. And I just want to show you a little bit. This is my wife and my child, Phoenix. He is an adorable little kid. He loves Legos right now. He's really, really into them. And this is him at the airport. He got to visit his grandma in Washington, and he was really, really excited about it. He's nervous as all get out, but we'll get to that one another thing. This is my dog, Archie. He is adorable. I promised my wife I would show my son first and not my soul animal. Look at that face. He's so cute. He's too adorable, and he knows it. and he's the most grunty dog you'll ever meet. So he's adorable. And yes,
What's the password? Let's see.
oh, for CSN,
Yes.
it's your student name and like your student account and password. That should do it.
The name is yours, the name.
I think it's your NSHE account number, and then your password for the NSHE account, like your NSHE number.
I see.
And then, okay, so you might be wondering, I'm sure you've got this idea. Why am I learning this? Why is math important? What is the point of this? Well, this is the reason. This BS. So I was at the grocery store and I saw this, and my wife loves to make Rice Krispie treats, and I thought this would be delicious, but then I looked closer and I saw this statement. We did the math. Did you now? Did you? That the donut holes are the perfect shape to deliver more glaze. It's a lie. That's a lie right there. I saw those numbers right there. Like, those are the correct formulas for the surface area of a sphere and the surface area of a torus, which physicists call a donut. But that's actually called a torus if you want to sound smart. Those are the correct formulas for the surface area. But I was looking at that and I was saying, wait a minute. There's no stipulations on that capital R and lowercase r. That's a bold claim to be making. And in fact, it's not true. If lowercase r is larger than 1.57 capital, if capital R is less than 1.57 lowercase r, then it's not true. And so I gave them a call. They haven't called me back, but this is a lie. This is trying to trick you, and you can use math to prove it. We actually, once we get to unit 2.6, we will be able to prove that they are lying to us. Corporations are lying to us about these types of things. That's the big use of mathematics, not to solve general problems in the real world. It's this type of stuff, right? We'll prove it once we get to that section, but it just made me mad. That's such a bold claim to be just making, saying that we did the math. Absolutely absurd. So, and on that front, by the way, so I said questions, and I love answering questions. My favorite ones are especially, why does this work? But a lot of people will ask me, why bother with this stuff? Because, like, am I ever going to use this? And the answer is probably no. Let's be real. The only time you're ever going to be asked to graph a polynomial is in this class, or if you see me at a Target, right? If you're like at Walmart or Target, I'm going to be like, hey, student, how do you draw this polynomial? That's I guarantee you, I've done it every single time I've seen a student in the wild. So no, solving a polynomial or finding the graph of a polynomial is not going to save your day-to-day life. It's true. It's a fact. But I'd like to kind of challenge you on that a little bit. So you might think that learning this stuff is tedious and unnecessary and a waste of your time. And that could be a way to think about it. Sorry, I forgot to upload this to your class, so I need to copy that over. Duplicate, and put that into your guys' class, and I will start deleting everything on that maybe later. You might be thinking that, practicing these things is a waste of your time. But I would argue, imagine you were an alien looking in on daily life of human beings, and you'd start to notice things, and you'd start to see a select group of people that get into their cars and go to a big building called a gym, and they'd go over to some weights, and they'd pick those weights up 10 times, and then they'd put them back down. And if you're an alien, you'd be looking at that and saying, that seems kind of stupid. They're not doing anything with that weight. They're just picking it up and putting it back down. What's the point? But we as human beings know that exercise is really, really good for us. Getting out in the fresh air, taking a walk. Why are they driving to a gym just to walk there, just to do a treadmill or whatever? But we know that it's a very, very good thing for our body to get exercise. It's great for us. So in that same vein, yes, being able to graph a polynomial might seem a little stupid at first, but the skills that you learn here, the critical thinking that is necessary, will make you a smarter person overall. You get to do some silly things that, like, when I teach 120, I talk about how you can use unit conversions which is like converting feet into inches or converting miles per hour to feet per second and things like that. I show you how you can enrich your daily life with that and make yourself a much funnier person. I talk about how you can figure out how many tons of crap you've picked up from your dog, right? Like over the course of you owning your dog, how many pounds of poop you've done because your dog will poop, let's say, a pound a day, or like 0.75 if you got a dachshund. And then you can figure out the literal tons of crap that you've put up with. So there are things that math can do, even if they're not actually useful in the grand scheme of things. So anyways, I hope we can take that into consideration and start working this. So I'm going to pass out these lecture notes. Unfortunately, they didn't collate it for me, so I'm just going to have to give them out one by one. Apparently, you already printed it out, guys. So I already printed off unit 1.0.1, but in the future, I'd like you to print them off. If you have trouble printing things, please contact me and I'll see what I can do. Didn't mean to put it back in. All right, so now we just need to do the Jeopardy music while I get these out to you guys. Should have separated these better.
But yours that would be on.
On the guided lecture notes. That's where
Thank you.
Wasn't some
it's on our Facebook.
physical, but it's also a digital.
Yes, you can download a PDF if you want to put it on your own computer. Or on
And
tablet.
it's also in-house as well.
No, this is something that I've created. So it's something that would only be available on our Canvas page.
And this is on,
So
and this is on.
yes, it's not homework. It's lecture notes.
Okay.
So I, especially with this course, it takes way too much time to write silly things, and I don't want to spend time doing it. So I rather us get to the practice problems and spend more time doing practice. So these are a living document for me. I've been working on them for a long time. So if you think of anything you'd like to see more of, or you want it to be improved, please let me know. I take your guys' considerations into account, and I'm trying to update them every semester. When I have time to. Did anybody not get one yet? Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we finish at 12:50, right? 12:50. And I promise I will have snacks for us next time because it's just 3 hours is a lot, even for me. I love math and I like 3 hours is a lot. So I will commend you guys every time. This is a lot to do. You guys are superstars. You need to know that. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention, I'm sorry, the first day is always a bunch of jumbleness. So the big difference between 126 and 126E is that all of you guys, there's no prerequisite for Math 126E. There is a prerequisite that you need to place into Math 126 in order to enroll in it. And so we are all coming from very different backgrounds. Some of us just took math last semester. Some of us haven't seen it in 5 years. So some of us had a really, really good starting thing. We just didn't take the placement test. Some of us need a little more help. So I want us to be patient with everybody. If you already know how to do this stuff, kudos. Just stick with it. You might learn something new. And if not, then just please stay on task. No worries. And we'll just get through it together. So, all right. So one of the things, if we're talking about how to add and subtract signed numbers, so positive and negative numbers, one thing to really help you hammer this point home, if you're rusty on this, is to think about positive numbers as like getting a check, getting a check for money, and negative numbers as like transactions to the bank account, numbers that are going to take away money from your bank account. So when you're adding two numbers of the same sign, we add the values and keep the common sign. So you add the values together. The value of a number is the number without any sign on it. So positive 3 plus positive 5, that's just going to be positive 8. You keep the common sign. They're both positive, so we keep it as positive 8. That's like getting a check for $3 and then a check for $5. Your bank account is going to be $8 richer. Negative 3 plus negative 5. So we do 3 plus 5, which we already did, which would be 8. And then we'd make it negative to keep the common sign, since they're both negatives. So the answer would be negative 8. Or you could think of it as if you were to get a check, a bill for $3 and another bill for $5, your bank account will be out $8. So you'd be in the red $8, negative 8. That's how that works. We're going to try and go through this quickly. If you need more practice at this, please feel free to talk to me. I can get you some resources to get more practice at it. If you're going to add two numbers that have unlike signs, so one of them is positive, one of them is negative, we subtract the values and keep the sign of the larger value, quote unquote, larger number. That is supposed to be an ampersand symbol, an and symbol, but it didn't look like it. So I say larger because technically speaking, on a number line, any positive number is going to be larger than a negative number. But what I really mean is like the number overall, ignoring the sign, that's the larger number. So like negative 11 is larger, quote unquote, than positive 5 because it's a larger value. So if we've got 3 plus negative 5, we'll do the difference. We'll do 5 minus 3, which is equal to positive 2. And then we'll make it negative because negative 5 was, quote unquote, larger. So the answer should be negative 2. So, and you can think about that intuitively of saying if you have $3 in your bank account and you get a bill $5, that's a negative 5, you're going to be in the red. You're going to be like your bank account's going to be negative because you're being billed for more money than you have in your bank account. Then we have 10 plus negative 4. So you do 10 minus 4 and you'd keep which would be equal to 6, and you'd keep it positive because 10 was, quote unquote, larger. So the answer should be positive 6. So once again, if this is easy for you, I'm not saying that in a math. I'm saying if this is apparent to you, and if you can do this in your head, all the more power to you. I'd like you to get to that point. So if doing these calculations is difficult, I recommend taking some time to do some practice on doing your times tables and your addition tables. There's plenty of YouTube videos and resources online that can give you more and more practice at this, because it will be useful to do so. That being said, you are allowed a scientific calculator, so you can do these calculations with your calculator if you so choose. So you might be wondering then, well, why bother learning the method then? And my answer to that would be because this is the start of algebra. You can't do algebra unless you know your arithmetic. And your scientific calculator cannot do algebra. So once we start involving variables, you won't be able to do 10 plus negative, like you won't be able to plug into your calculator 10x plus negative 4x. So knowing how this works will be useful. So The way I usually like to do things in my classroom when I have exercises, is have you guys do the several problems, and then we'll come back together and go over them. So I'd like you guys to do A through C. If you already have them done, awesome. But otherwise, I'm going to slowly fill in details. Now, I'm writing this out, by the way, on my notes because it's for our notes, but on the exam. Oh, that's another. Yes. Oh, excellent. Is anybody else missing one? Do it.
I think I'm missing.
You are? Front page. Okay. I'll talk about, please remind me to talk about how much work do I need to show? If you can just see that the answer would be 8, that's great. I have the answers up here if you'd like to check your work. No worries if you're not finished. I will go over them. I do not expect you to be quick at anything that I do because I've been doing this for a very, very long time. So for part A, there are two things with opposite signs. So we take the difference and keep the sign of the larger number. So 10 minus 3, that's 7. And it's going to stay positive because it's a larger number. If that ever throws you off, just think about it in terms of money. You have a bill for $3 and you're getting a check for $10. You're going to be in the black. You're going to be making money because you got a bill, or you got a check that was for larger amounts of money. 13 plus -5. Once again, this is adding two numbers with opposite signs. So we're going to take the difference, 13 minus 5, the difference of the two values, 13 and 5, and you get 8. And since 13 is a large number, it stays positive. Positive 8. Then -3 plus -6, those are two of the same sign. So we add the two values, 3 plus 6 is 9, but we keep the common negative sign, and the answer is -9. Any questions on that? I'd like you to get to the point where you can just do that without even writing anything down. Keep that number immediately in your head. So 13 minus plus -5, just immediately write 8. I'd like you to get to that point if you're not there already. The last one, 0 plus -1 would just be -1. And that is because 0 is a very, very special number. It is what we call the additive inverse. And that's because that's a very, very, sorry, no, not inverse. Oh my God. That'd be a travesty. Not inverse, the additive identity. The additive identity. It is the identity element in the addition world, because you can add and subtract 0 to anything and it will not change the result, right? 0 plus 3,000 is just equal to 3,000. -249 minus 0 is still -249. Now, that's a very, very useful fact. It doesn't sound like it is, but it's actually one of the most useful things that mathematicians use. We're going to talk about it once we get into Unit 1.2, a thing called cleverly adding 0. Mathematicians learned this a long time ago, this clever thing of adding 0, and it's been a very useful thing ever since. So we'll see that in a little while, why adding 0 is a useful thing. Two things now. So first and foremost, do you need to know the formal names of everything? No. That is a classist thing from a long time ago when mathematics was only supposed to be done by the rich and powerful. Legitimately, sadly, My subject, my favorite subject in the world is deep rooted in sexism and classism. Sadly, that's just the fact. Women weren't allowed to be mathematicians for a long time, which is a damn shame because there's been some great female mathematicians that have won Nobel Prizes and in really, really advanced mathematics. But either way, imagine if they had been allowed to do it early, we would have gotten a lot more done. And then in addition to it, they didn't want the pores to know how to do the things that they would do because then they could keep them down and not knowing how to do mathematics. So they always said, no, you have to know the exact name of these things. I will call it by its exact name, but if you call it the identity thingy, that's fine with me. If you call the fractions numerator, if you call it the top part, I'm not going to get upset. I will be a Starbucks barista about it and say, like, you mean the at of the numerator, right? Like when you say a caramel macchiato, they correct you and say, you mean a caramel macchiato? Gotcha. Or if you say medium, they'll say grande, that type of thing. It's true. They bash that into your head that you have to say that. I was a Starbucks barista, and for a while I was in a training manual. Actually, this preface was in a training manual. That's pretty cool.
Better.
Say what?
Dutch is better.
Dutch Bros.
Yeah, it's better.
I agree. I can't go there because anymore because that was how I survived newbornhood with my child. My son had colic, and the only thing that we did is we always went to the Dutch Bros to like say, "Wow, that was a messed up day, wasn't it?" And now that's just associated forever with newbornhood, and I can't handle it. As newbornhood was something else for me. But anyways, yes, I do agree. Dutch Bros was delicious, and more affordable from what I remember. Either way, but that's a sidetrack. So don't worry about knowing the formal definitions. There's never going to be a question on my exams that's like, what is the formal definition of the additive identity? That's not going to be the case. Second thing, and this is something that will play a role. I mean, we don't necessarily need to talk about it right now, but it doesn't hurt to talk about it. Students always want to ask me, how much work do I need to show on exams? And my response is, imagine you are presenting your work as an argument to show your the answer to a classmate of an average classmate in this class. They should be able to look at your work and understand how you got from point A to point B. If they can't, that's not enough work to show. That's use that as the rule the rule of thumb is you should show enough work that a classmate would be able to understand your work. Does that make sense? That's the adage. It should be for enough work that your classmates could understand it. Okay? All right. Now, one thing that we don't really talk about too often is that subtraction is not a new operation. It's just the opposite operation of addition. And a lot of times in mathematics, we describe opposite operations in terms of the previous definition. So what I mean to say is that subtracting a number is the same as adding the negative version. Subtracting a number is the same thing as adding its negative or its opposite version. So it's not really a rule, it's just taking subtraction and rewriting it as addition. So -3 minus 5 is the same thing as doing -3 plus -5. I'm going to actually color code that and say -3 plus -5. And we already did that on the previous page. That's going to be -8. Add the two values and keep the common sign. Boom, -8. 7 minus 4. Yes, we could calculate that immediately and just see that's +3, but you could also think about it as 7 plus -4. I meant to make that a different color. Let's make that red. And then, honestly, this makes it more convoluted in this case, but that is technically how we can do it. So plus a -4, that ends up being +3. I do this part of this notes to mention that there is a common theme in mathematics, and it's a good way to become a better mathematician is to think of things based on things that you already know. That's a very, very common mathematical technique is to look at a simpler example to figure something out. There's a book in mathematics education called How to Solve It by I forget his first name, but a guy named Polya, Polya. And brilliant mathematician, great educator. He developed like 8 different techniques that great mathematicians use to figure out problems. So if you want some light reading to help you, like to read to your child one day, read Polya, and they'll get to sleep in no time at all. Subtracting negative numbers. Subtracting a negative number cancels to addition. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have something here and you're subtracting a negative number. That turns into addition. So it becomes this number plus the number. So it goes from minus and negative to plus. It's a double negative. It cancels each other out. So a lot of students, what they like to do to visualize it is they just love to write, if they got a minus, they just make it like this into a giant plus. You can do that if you'd wish. That's totally fine to do. But I'm just going to kind of skip that and write those. So this is -3 plus 5. That's what that is. And the intuition behind why that's true, by the way, is if you subtract a negative number, which you can think of as like a bill, if you take away a bill from your account, that's really adding money to your account because you no longer have to pay that bill. Your account will stay more positive. So this is going to be +2. And then 7 minus -4, that's the same thing as 7 plus 4, which becomes +11. Any questions on those concepts about how to add and subtract versus how to add and subtract signed numbers? Okay. And once again, if this is something that seems apparent to you, you already know how to do this, that's awesome for you. Some of us don't remember how to do this, and that's okay too. So if just stay put, stay focused, and we'll get there. Or do some doodles, draw the millennial, this thing. You guys remember this? It's my childhood right there. You guys remember that thing? Way too fun to draw. I forget what it's called. Just every millennial ever learned how to do that. So like at the same time across the entire nation. I don't know how. Makes it think like it's a what's it called? A simulation. You guys aren't real. None of us are real. It's just all simulations. Anyways, go ahead and start doing A, B, and D, and we'll talk about C. Just because C is a funny case. And if you can see the answer right off the bat, awesome. Just do it. I don't need to see the work on these ones, really. I have the answers up here. If you're still working on it, no problems. But if you want to check your work, awesome too. You should get 5, -6, and -2 for A, B, and D respectively. You can treat the minus -7 as a plus +7, which ends up being +5. And if you can just see that 4 minus 10 would be -6, more power to you. Awesome. And then -2 minus 0 should stay -2 because 0 is the additive identity, which means that when you add or subtract to anything, it doesn't change anything. The next one, -12 minus -12, that's going to become -12 plus 12, and that cancels out and becomes 0. So in that fashion, 12 is the additive inverse,
Those identity.
the identity is 0. So 0 is the additive identity, but in regards to negative 12, positive 12 is its additive inverse. Because when you add, additive inverse of negative 12. Because when you add it to it, you get the additive identity. Every number has an additive inverse. For 5, it's negative 5. For negative 200, it's positive 200, and so on and so forth. That's a unique property about all of our real numbers, is that every number has an additive inverse. That's not always true in mathematics. In upper division mathematics, there are some things that don't have additive inverses. And so that's why we spend time talking about it, because it's a unique property of our real numbers. Okay. Next thing, unless there's any questions on those, we'll talk about multiple division and division rules. So there are many ways to express multiplication and division, and it would do us well to be comfortable with all of them. There is, if we're talking about 4 times 6, there is this way. But I want you to get rid of this from your nomenclature. Don't write the x to mean multiplication. No more. We are going to start doing algebra, and we're going to be using the variable x a lot, and that's going to get confusing. So we no longer use that little cross to do multiplication. Instead, so you can even write, don't use this notation. And instead, we use these ones, 4.6, 4 parentheses 6, or parentheses 4 times parentheses 6. Any of those things mean multiplication. The dot is like dot or parentheses are my 2 favorites. Most common are the middle 2. And division, you've got that you got the staple, which is 4, and then let's do 4 divided by 6. Like that. That's one way to write division. That is still sometimes gets used. Not always. Most of the time we write it as a fraction. So we do like 4/6, or we do 4/6. Because there's a nice connection between division and fractions, which is awesome. But we'll get to that later. So when multiplying or dividing 2 numbers of the same sign, the answer will result in a net positive. That is to say, if you have a negative times a negative, that results in a positive. And if you have a negative divided by a negative, that results in a positive. And if you have a positive times a positive, that results in a positive. And if you have a positive divided by a positive, that also results in a positive. So if they have the same signs, the result will always be positive. Negative times a negative is positive. Positive times a positive is positive. And then if you are multiplying or dividing 2 numbers with unlike signs, do you have a question about like the writing? Yeah, that's terrible handwriting, I know. That looks like, I don't even know what that is. It's like a half heart. Yes, let's rewrite that a little bit better. And then you'll notice that my T and H kind of like, so this is how I write the. It doesn't really look like anything right, but we'll get used to it over time. All right. When multiplying or dividing 2 numbers of opposite signs, sorry, it's being a little bit slow in loading, the answer will always be negative. That is to say, a positive times a negative results in a negative, and the same thing's true with a negative times a positive. It results in a negative. And then if you have a positive divided by a negative, that results in a net negative. Or if you have a negative divided by a positive, that results in a negative. So that's always true. Is that unlike numbers, when multiplying and dividing, it always results in a negative number. So if we have 3 times 5, that will be positive because it's a positive times a positive, and that will equal positive 15. And if you want to, if you've seen the Common Core mathematics, I know it does, like, people are really up in arms about it, but it's actually a really good system if you give it a chance. The idea is that this is 3 groups with 5 objects in each group. So that's 5 plus 5 plus 5, which ends up being 15. And then you have -3 groups with 5 objects in each group. So you have 3 -5s, and that ends up being -15. Because a negative times a positive will result in a net negative. -16 times -1, that's a negative times a negative, so the result will be a positive, and in fact, it'll just be 16. 36 divided by -4, that's a positive divided by a negative, so the result will be negative. And so 4 divided into 36 will give me 9. So this should be -9. Then -14 divided by -7, that's a negative divided by a negative. So they have the same sign, so the result will be positive, and that'll be a +2. And then -3,000 times 1 is it's a negative times a positive, so it's going to be a result of a net negative, and it'll just be -3,000. Here we call 1 the multiplicative identity. Because you can multiply or divide by 1, and it always results in not changing anything. So that is to say, if you have, let's say, 2.475, and you multiply that by 1, it just equals 2.475. If you do -10,000, divide that by 1, that'll be -10,000. And that might seem silly, that might seem unnecessary to talk about, but we're going to learn about a very, very common mathematical tool called cleverly multiplying by 1. And we'll see that that's a very, very useful tool. So there is a reason to know that. There's a reason to know that it's the multiplicative identity. Ooh. Wow. My voice has to get used to teaching every semester because like I take a break and then I need to learn how to project again. So I'm starting to get a headache, which is not great, but we'll get there. We'll get it done.
Excited for teaching.
Oh, I do. Every morning I get excited. Yes, I love teaching this stuff. Like mathematics is the coolest subject in the world. As I said, we literally invented writing so that we could learn how to do mathematics. It's like age-old markings on walls and stuff. They're trying to count things, and because you can't, like, it's hard to count things without having it in front of you. It's the universal language too. Mathematics is always working regardless of what culture you're in. If there's an alien life form out there, if we ever do find aliens, mathematics is probably the best way to communicate to them because it's something that is always true. So 0 is a very, very unique number when it comes to multiplication because it has several properties. 0 times any number is 0, right? 5 times 0 is 0. -10 times 0 is also 0. It always works out that way. And it makes sense if you think about it from that groups times number of objects in each group. You have 5 groups, and each group has 0 objects. How many objects do you have total? 0. You have 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, or plus 0. And it's all done. Dividing any non-zero number by 0 is undefined. So if you have, let's say, 7 over 0, that's undefined. Or if you have, let's say, -3 divided by 0, that's also undefined. Yes. Excellent question. I want to wait until I have number 4 and then I will explain that. Thank you. I was going to talk about that anyways, but I'm glad you asked it. Undefined is a very, very unique terminology. There's 2 different terminologies that we're going to learn today here. 0 divided by any non-zero number So zero, like 0 divided by 5 or 0 over 5 or whatever, is always 0. So that is if I have 0 divided by 5, that's just 0. Because you're asking yourself, how many times does 5 go into 0? Well, it goes into it 0 times. The reason why, and we'll talk about the undefined in just a moment. If I have 0 divided by negative 12, that's also 0. I should put this negative 12 in parentheses. And the last one, 0 divided by 0, is indeterminate. Is what we call indeterminate. So 0 divided by 0 is indeterminate. Sorry, what's the name? Connor. That's right. You already said. I'm sorry. I will try to learn you guys' names as soon as possible. It takes me a little while. And I'll try to learn it as fast as possible. So Connor asked, what does undefined mean? And I want to add the extension, what does indeterminate mean? Because they're two different things. Undefined means that there's no quantifiable number that exists that will equal that. So 7 divided by 0 just doesn't exist. It is not there's no number that could exist to give you an answer there. There are certain things in upper division mathematics where you try and bend the rules a little bit, but that's for the math majors and the lonely heart math majors out there to figure out. But for all intents and purposes, undefined means that it does not exist. There is simply no number that works. Indeterminate is different. There are certain things in mathematics that we call indeterminate because it is impossible to determine it. And there's several ways we can think about that. 0 divided by 0. How many times does 0 go into 0? It could go into it 0 times, but 0 could also go into 0 100 times because 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 100 times is also equal to 0. So there's no way to determine the actual value. You need more context in order to determine it. This will be made way more clear in calculus. There's a certain thing called limits. If you remember from Mean Girls, I'm not talking about the new one, I'm talking about the Lindsay Lohan, the best one. She's saying the limit does not exist. Exactly right. If you remember that scene, if you decide to take calculus, you will finally understand what she is talking about. And the fact is, 0 over 0 could equal 5. It could equal 1/2. It could equal negative 3,000. It is unknown unless you're given more information. That is the difference between undefined and indeterminate. There are many numbers. There's other forms of indeterminates. 0 raised to the 0. You don't need to write this down. But 0 raised to the 0 is something that we call indeterminate. There's 0 to the infinity is also indeterminate, and other things like that. So that's what an indeterminate thing is. It's something that we cannot figure out what the number is without more context. All right. In the time, so once again, we get out at 12:50, right? 12:20. We should have taken a break by now. My apologies. Let's take a break. We've been doing a lot of math. Make sure you stand up for at least a little bit, even if you just want to walk around the room for a little bit. Let's take a 10-minute break. Let's come back at 11:50. People watching the recording, now go do some push-ups and some squats. All right, we're back to it. We're going to talk about absolute values and exponents. Absolute values are actually very, very useful. And so I have the simplistic definition of what an absolute value is, and then also the intuition behind it. So the absolute value of a number is the number, its value without the sign. The absolute value of a number is the value of it without its sign. So the absolute value of 2 is just 2. In this case, we would say that the absolute value sign is redundant. It's unnecessary because 2 is already positive. But the absolute value of negative 7 would be positive 7. Sorry, I should have mentioned that it was denoted absolute value of a number, 2 bars. And the absolute value of 0 is 0. It's the number without the sign. The question is, by the way, is 0 positive or negative? It's neither. Yeah, it is not positive nor negative. And that is by design. And that drives some people crazy sometimes, but in mathematics, but either way. Graphically, what the absolute value is it's the number's distance from 0, from the origin of a number line. When we're thinking about one-dimensional, it's a number line. 2 dimensions, that's an XY grid. And so this is the start of, technically speaking, vectors. This is a one-dimensional vector. If you've heard that terminology, if you've ever watched Despicable Me, right? There's the bad guys named Vector, right? A vector is a line segment with direction and length. Magnitude is what they call it. And so if you look at upper division textbooks, if they talk about the magnitude of a vector, some textbooks will do that to make sure it's clear, but actually many mathematicians would argue that it should just be 2, because this is just the one-dimensional version of magnitude. It's distance from the origin. That's what it is. So just looking at it on a number line, here's -2, positive 2. It's right there. And this distance is a distance of 2. -7 is right here. And if you count the number of tick marks away from 0, it's 7 units away from 0.
You say absolute value is the distance from 0?
Mm-hmm. The true definition is that it's the distance from the number to the origin. In this case, that would be 0, but in 2 dimensions, absolute value means the distance from the origin 0, 0, the center of the X or the cross. But that is how it's interpreted. But in practice, which is the way we will most likely use it, most commonly use it, it's just take the number, remove the sign. So if it's positive, just keep it positive. If it's negative, make it positive. Then the other one is that an exponent is a number used to represent repeated multiplication. Now, technically speaking, in case there's any sleeper agents out there, there's like there's probably a random teacher from UNLV or from UNR who's trying to make sure I make a slip up and saying, haha, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. They're trying to make sure to verify that I am a professor and not and I don't have Professor Cook in my trunk. But technically speaking, that is not true. But for all our purposes, it will basically be true. It's technically only true if we're talking about exponents that are whole numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because once you start dealing with fractions and decimals, it starts to become a little bit wonky, but it'll be true enough for our purposes for right now. So 2 to the 5th, it's just repeated multiplication. It's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which ends up being 32 if you carry it out. Here, as a fun little side note, 2 is called the base. 2 is the base of this exponential expression. 2 is the base of this exponential expression. So, and you'll notice there's a versus between B and C. -4 squared, let me restate that. The quantity -4 squared is going to be -4 times -4. And that's a negative times a negative, which results in a net positive. This is positive 16 versus -4 squared. Notice that I didn't say the quantity -4 squared. I said -4 squared. Because mathematicians decided a long time ago, unless it's inside parentheses, it's assumed to not be part of the base. So this negative is not part of the base. So this is instead considered as -4 times 4, which is -16. So unless the negative is inside the parentheses, it's treated as outside. And so it's not part of the base. The exponent is used on the base only. So in part C's case, the base is just +4. Whereas in part B, it is very clear that the negative sign is part of the base. Say what?
Drink it has a lot of pain in it.
It's I need to get a larger water bottle. Okay. Any questions on exponents or absolute value? Oh, you need yes, I'll need a second. So you can see it up here. You might have heard this terminology before. Has that everyone heard PEMDAS?
It does.
PEMDAS, yeah. And so one of my colleagues, we decided to go out for drinks, and she had a little too many, and she started asking random people in the street what's PEMDAS. And so that was a fun night. But either way, I disagree with that. I don't think it should be called PEMDAS. I think it should be PEMDAS because of this specific problem. This is part of the reason why I stopped going onto Facebook. I've deleted my Facebook account. I never look back. It's a great decision. You should not have a Facebook account. It's terrible for you. By the way, did you know that they incited a genocide in Myanmar? Fun fact, Facebook accidentally, not purposely, but under their watch, with their knowing, with their knowledge, they actually caused a genocide in Myanmar. Look it up. Facebook genocide Myanmar. You'll see it. They try to hide it, but they knowingly let it happen. Facebook, the company, they knew it was going to happen. Like they knew it was happening, and they did nothing about it. So, yeah, it's negligence on their part. It's a terrible situation, really messed up. So just want to keep mentioning, social media companies are not there for you. They're using behavioral psychology to manipulate your brain. It's not healthy. It's not okay. So don't do it. But anyways, when I was on Facebook, I remember seeing these all the time. It was like saying 99% of people can't figure out this basic math problem. What is 6 divided by 2 times 3? And you'd have a bunch of people saying that it's 9, and a bunch of other people saying that it should be 1. And then you have a few people like myself say, well, actually the answer is 9, and here's why. And then we get the question, no, it's 1, you nerd, stop it. And I can't argue with that, and I'm done. I saw that, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Quit it and never look back. So this is actually a really, really important problem in mathematics. When we started talking about like way back in the old days, way back when we were still using numbers and abaci to do things, once we started developing our own sense of what operations on mathematics should be, we started asking questions of how should we be able to read that? How should it work? And I guarantee you, so we look here in the United States, in America, we look at mathematics from a Western lens, and a lot of that kind of comes from sadly imperialism and domination in the world, unfair domination of other places. So maybe if Asia was more like during that time period, if they had pushed it more over to us, we might read this thing right to left. Because Japanese writing is done right to left. I don't necessarily know about Chinese
Arabic.
And Arabic as well. Arabic is done right to left. And so maybe in that, if that happened, we would do it differently. But the way we do it is following this thing called PEMDAS, but we read it always left to right, just like we read. So the reason why I don't like PEMDAS and saying it that way is because that makes you think that it goes parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication, then division, then addition, then subtraction. But it's not the case. So here's how it should be. It should be PEMDAS. So P is for parentheses, and that's the first thing you want to take care of in an operation, in a set of operations. So P for parentheses. And other grouping symbols. Like the square root, the absolute value, brackets, etc. So it should be GEMDAS, honestly, because it should be grouping symbols, not parentheses. It's just PEMDAS sounded better to people, I guess. But any grouping symbol like a radical or an absolute value or a bracket it falls under the umbrella of parentheses, of a grouping symbol. After you've taken care of the parentheses, you move on to exponents, E for exponents. And there's nothing special about those. Just take care of exponents after you've taken care of parentheses. And once you've taken care of that, then you take care of multiplication and division. So multiplication and division from left to right. In an alternate universe, and like in the multiverse theory, you know, that type of stuff, maybe we do it differently. Maybe we do it from right to left. But in this universe, we do it this way. And then addition and subtraction, the last one, as, is addition and subtraction from left to right. I'm going to underline that from left to right because that's the key thing. That's the thing that I would that I explained in that Facebook post and was called the nerd. And I was just like, you know, I'm done with it. I don't need to deal with those types of people. Those boomer parents who are given all their information online just by doing those silly studies and like those silly quizzes and stuff.
So with this problem, you just use M does really, but since 6 divided by 2 times 3, you do the multiplication. I see why people would say 1, but if you go do the division first, then it'd be 9.
Yes, and so the answer is 9, and it's because we don't have any parentheses, so we skip that step. It's what we call vacuously satisfied, if you want to sound like a pompous jerk. There's no exponents, so that's vacuously satisfied. And then we go to multiplication and division, of which there is some. And we read it left to right. So first we do 6 divided by 2, getting us 3. And then we multiply that by 3, getting us 9. That's the reason why the answer is 9 and not 1. Because multiplication and division happen at the same time, left to right. So.
Did you actually put this at the Facebook thing?
Yes. This was the exact question. I was so upset by it that I kept it in my mind. It hurt my soul. Because seeing that, I was like, I'm an educator. I'm going to educate people. They're going to see my point of view, and they're going to see that I've got this perfect answer. And no, not good enough. So one thing about PEMDAS is what happens while you're inside parentheses or inside a radical, inside a grouping symbol. You still follow PEMDAS. But I'm not, you still follow P, arrow E, arrow MD, arrow AS.
I now see your grade with M dot, because really read it up to write it be like DM, but really it isn't. It just sounds better as M dots.
Yes.
I see your grade now.
So the other thing that you'll know about this, and this is true with basically anything in life, right? The more you practice this, the more you do it. And we're going to be doing this not just with numbers, but next section, we're going to start doing it with variables. But you'll see places where you can just invisibly group them together and take care of them at the same time with all the other parentheses. So as you work through these types of things, you'll start to realize why you can do things fast. You'll start doing them fast. Now, if you can do them fast, please do so. You don't need to show all the nitty-gritty work. I don't need to see that. But if you want practice, you should do it. So, for example, with this one, if we're going to do it to a T, if we're going to follow the rule of law all the way through it, we would look at this one and say, are there any parentheses? Yes, technically. But nothing to really do. All we need to do is convert that negative into a positive. So it becomes 6 plus 9 plus 2 cubed. Then we've taken care of all the parentheses, so we move on to exponents, of which there is one. And so the 6 plus the 9 sticks around, but then it becomes plus 8. at which point we move on to multiplication and division, but there is none. So we say not applicable. And then we move on to addition and subtraction, of which there is. So 6 plus 9 plus 8. Now, there is a fact that we call commutativity of addition, which allows us to just add them in whatever order we want. So we could just do it all at once. But if we want to be super, super particular, which I don't need you to be, but just to show you, you'd add from left to right. So we'd first take care of the 6 plus 9 and write this as 15 plus 8. And then get our final answer of 23. But I would encourage you, so what I'm talking about in that second note, that like as you practice this method, you'll see where you can put invisible parentheses. We can basically put this in parentheses. You can always do that. You can always put a group in parentheses. It's extra work, but it's there. So you can take care of this parenthesis and this parenthesis at the same time. So you can go from here, for people watching the recording, you can go straight from here to here. And then you can probably go straight from here to here if you want. But even if you can do it all in your head, more power to you. Please start to get faster at it wherever possible. This next one, there's no parentheses, there's no exponents. So P and E and A, not available. And then we go to multiplication and division, of which there is 2. There's the division, which comes first from left to right. So it becomes 5 minus 3 times 3 plus 1. And then we take care of that next multiplication division. You take care of the multiplication now, and then it becomes 5 minus 9 plus 1. And then you have to go from left to right. So you take care of, and so we've done all the multiplication division. We go to the addition and subtraction. We get 5 minus 9, that's negative 4. Plus 1, which gives us negative 3. But as I said, please feel free to do things fast. You could treat it as this grouping right here and this grouping. You could make this its own grouping. And you could do like 6 minus 9 and call it good. You could do that all at once if you feel comfortable. It just takes practice to see what's right. All right. So let's see here. Okay, so we got a little bit more to do. Okay, I don't think we're going to be able to get through all of it. Okay. So in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit. For part A, just to let you know, you're going to treat the numerator and denominator, the top thing and the bottom thing, as separate groups. When you're dealing with a fraction that has a bunch of operations in it, just treat the numerator and the denominator as separate groups, because they technically are. And if you'd like to see why, please feel free to ask. I'm happy to show why it's true that they are separate groups. But so in essence, we'll deal with them at the same time in the numerator. And so I don't need you to write the PEMDAS. You can just start working on it as you go along. So there's no parentheses in the numerator. There's only a multiplication and then an addition afterwards. So it's going to become 6 plus 12 divided by 1 plus 8. That's the way I would do it. And then I take care of the additions. That's 18 divided by 9, which is 2. Is there a question? So it? Sure. So if we're looking at the numerator, let's just kind of calculate this on the side. So 2 times 3, that would be 6. And then 3 times 4, that will be 12. There's no exponents in it. Do you have a question? Okay, good. And then down in the bottom, there's no parentheses, but there is an exponent, and that's 2 cubed. That's 2 times 2 times 2, which would be 2 times 2, which is 4 times 2 again, which would be 8. So that's going to be 1 plus 8. And then we go on to addition and subtraction, which the numerator has its own addition and the denominator has its own addition. We're going to do those separately at the same time. 6 plus 12, that's 18. 1 plus 8, that's 9. And then we do 18 divided by 9. How many times does 9 go into 18? It goes into it 2 times. And that's where we get that answer. This next one was meant to be a doozy to show all the different properties. So if we wanted to do it all by the law of the land, it would take a long time. But I want to show you how you can do it a little bit quicker. So I already know that these two things here are separated by this subtraction. So I can treat this as its own group and this is its own group. And I can go immediately to bracket, parenthesis, 12 minus 9 times 2 plus 1 divided by 7. That. I need to take care of that inner parentheses because I'm inside a big grouping symbol, but inside the big grouping symbol, I need to take care of PEMDAS. Again, PEMDAS. So this is a grouping symbol inside the grouping symbol. It needs to be taken care of first. So then I know that this is going to be 3. So 3 times 2, that's 6. So this becomes 6 times 1, 6 plus 1, excuse me, divided by 7. And if you immediately see that the answer should be 1, awesome to you. If not, 6 plus 1 is 7. This is 7 divided by 7, which is 1. That's me skipping steps. And I encourage you to get to that point. But if you want to show it in glorious detail, I can definitely show you that at some point. Last one. So up top, it's all multiplication. Down bottom, it's all multiplication. We can take care of them in sequence. This will become negative 12 times negative 10 over positive 10, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And you could cancel things out, or you could FOIL it, like you could still work further and get this as positive 120 divided by 10, which is positive 12. But you could cancel out the tens if you wished. And the reason why I brought this one up is there's a nice nifty trick that will be very useful, especially when we get to unit 2.6. Notice that in total, how many negatives were there in part C? 4 negatives, an even number. And so there's an actual rule, and this is a very useful fact that we will be using, especially when we get to unit 2.6. And then if you plan on taking 181, you will use this a lot when you get to unit 3 of or into applications of differentiation in calculus. Multiplying and dividing an even number of negative numbers together results in a positive number. So that's right. If you have negative times a 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 negative, that's 6 negatives. Let's think about why. An even number of things means that everything can get paired up with something else. If you have an even number of things, there's always a way to get everything to have a pair. So that means we can just pair these off. A negative times a negative, that's a positive. Negative times a negative, that's a positive. Negative times a negative, that's a positive. So we just have a bunch of positives multiplied together, which results in a net positive. Multiplying or dividing an odd number of negative numbers together results in a negative number. And I did just all multiplication there, but the same is true with division. If I have negative negative over negative negative, it results in a net positive, because there's 4 negatives total. To see why this is true, so we'll do 5 negatives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With an odd number of negatives, everything can get paired off except for one thing. Whenever you have an odd number of things, there's always a way to pair everything except for one thing will always be left out, right? So you can get all of these pairs up together. These ones right here make a positive. These ones right here make a positive, meaning that they together make a positive. But then we have to take this positive and this negative, and a positive times a negative is a net negative. So that's the reason why. It's an even number of negatives multiplied and divided together results in a net positive. An odd number of negatives multiplied and divided together results in a net negative. So without even calculating this, is the result going to be positive or negative? I heard positive. Did anybody say negative? I was hoping someone would say negative because I was deliberately trying to trick you guys. I was deliberately trying to trick you. Do you see that too? That exponent 2, this is -2 times -4 times -4 times 7 over 22 times -9 times -10. So it's actually negative. So you're right. It's a negative number because 5 negatives. So be on the lookout for exponents. They play a role. They play a role. It's tricky, but I did that deliberately so we'd see that and stumble on it and never make that stumble again. Okay, I'm looking at the time. We don't have enough time to get into radicals. We'll come back with that next time. Let's call it a day. Yes. Oh, sure. Thank you.
Would you recommend close everything on Sis to?
Do it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get ahead, go ahead.
Will we be continuing this next month?
Yes, we will continue this on Thursday. I'll make sure I bring a snack for us all.
And the other stuff.
Yeah. So perfect. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me after class or email me or come to my office hours. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your second day of class, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Yes.